Namaste, yogis. The light in me honors the light in you, and in the light, we are one. I hope this video finds you well. We are continuing to explore the inner archetype of the warrior. And in this video, we will be exploring our inner warrior through the stars. And as Dane Rudhyar, a famous astrologer, once said, if you understand the language of the stars, they speak to you. Now, in previous videos for this playlist that I will link in this video, the Warrior series, we have explored our inner archetype through movement. And we did that through the fierce avatar of Shiva, known as Vīrabhadra. And Vīrabhadra had poses named after him in Hatha Yoga, and you may have experienced those in a class or in one of my videos, Vīrabhadrasana 1, 2, 3, and so on. And we also explored our inner warrior through the flows of Primal Movement. And Primal Movement, created by the amazing Liz Arch, is a fully embodied movement practice that weaves together yoga asana, martial arts, and self-healing qigong to tap into your primal power. Now, those warriors have their own flow versus Hatha Yoga warriors that are stationary and do not move. So if you'd like to check out the Primal Movement videos, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section. We explore these flows, and each are attached to a Chinese 5 element, and these flows tap into your inner warrior. Peaceful warrior, balancing warrior, and primal warrior really tap into strength and the expression that makes you feel empowered and inspired within. So I would love to know your thoughts on those videos. This video, we talk about the language of the stars, how they speak to you. And I have all my notes here, so bear with me as we move through this series. I will break this video down into 3 parts. We will talk about the essence of the warrior archetype, essentially in storytelling and folklore. And then in the part 2, we will talk about the warrior Aries. Where you have Aries in your birth chart is where your inner warrior steps forward. If you would like to follow along when we get to that part of the series, the part 2, of the astrology and the essence of our warrior through the stars, you can look at astro.com to find your free natal chart if you know your place of birth, your time of birth, which is essential, and the date of birth. You can pull up your chart and find where Aries and your warrior are the most powerful. In the 3rd video, we will explore our inner warrior through the planet Mars, the ruler of Aries, known as the god of war. Where Mars is in your chart is where your action, your passion resides, and also your relationship to your sexuality, and anger, and your drive. And the 1st house is also ruled by Aries and Mars, is where you can feel your drive to step forward, but we're going to focus on Aries and Mars predominantly. Okay, rising signs tend to be a little bit different. So we'll focus on the 1st house in a separate video. So let's continue in this video where we explore our inner warrior through the essence itself. So the warrior is a universal archetype representing the primal drive for action, courage, and the defense of boundaries. You can think of the guardian at the gate, right? You can think of the warrior, if you explored some of my movement videos, like blocking horse. These are our boundaries, right? And that is essential in embodying this archetype. It is characterized, the warrior, by the willingness to face challenges and the discipline to master the skills necessary to overcome them. Now, there are 4 characteristics when we talk about the archetype of the warrior. Those are, number 1, courage and decisiveness. So the warrior acts in the presence of fear. You can think of, like, the first thing that always comes to my mind is the inner mama bear, right? The warrior for the child. So if a child gets hurt and is under the car, the warrior, the mother bear, can lift the car off the child. They just have strength, and there's not even a thought. It just is instinctual, right? This is also about making bold choices, like lifting a car off a child, making bold choices under pressure without hesitation. The second core characteristic is discipline and mastery. The warrior archetype in astrology also points to athleticism, and you can think of an Olympian or even a soldier in the military, right? They have to get their bodies ready to represent with integrity, right? The mission, the purpose, and also how to emulate discipline through devotion or just showing up for the self. So this is discipline and mastery is the archetype values training, self-control, and the persistent pursuit of goals despite the obstacle. Sometimes we don't want to show up for our movement practice, right? Sometimes we don't feel like showing up and doing whatever the discipline is. And it doesn't have to necessarily be athleticism. It could be learning knowledge. You could be a warrior of knowledge, right? And it's just showing up even when you don't feel like it. And that is discipline that turns to devotion as the warrior. The third characteristic is boundaries and protection. So the primary function of the warrior is to establish no-go zones, protecting personal integrity, loved ones, or a greater cause. The fourth characteristic is loyalty to a higher cause. In its mature form, the warrior does not fight for personal gain, but serves a transpersonal mission, such as justice or welfare of the kingdom, or representing a nation, again, like in the military or as an Olympian. And with any archetype, we have the shadow aspect, the yin and the yang, right? So the warrior has a shadow side that manifests when its energy is unbalanced or immature. And the first would be the active shadow archetype of the sadist. The sadist uses strength to dominate or to bully or to inflict pain. And this version is often emotionally detached, cruel, and addicted to conflict. The masochist is the passive shadow of the warrior archetype. And the masochist represents a total lack of boundaries. The masochist feels powerless and plays the martyr and fails to stand up for themselves. We also have the bully. The bully is characterized by unprovoked aggression, machismo, and a disregard for the consequences of violence. Let's explore the warrior archetype through folklore and symbols. And we'll give a little culture example of these as well. In mythology, we have Aries and Mars, which we will discuss in the second video for astrology. The god of war represents a raw aggression and a physical drive, while figures like Thor and Achilles embody martial prowess. In historical traditions, I like to think of the 47 Ronin, the samurai warriors, and the code that they live under. There's also the chivalrous medieval knights, and the Native American warriors like the Plains Indians, who represent the integration of discipline and honor. In the masculine and film and literature, you might think of, what comes to mind for me is William Wallace in Braveheart, fighting for Scotland's freedom, or the Gladiator, right? Played by, the Gladiator movie that I like by Russell Crowe, where he's fighting for his own freedom for himself. And we also have the feminine. Let's discuss that in mythology and the archetype of the divine feminine warrior. The feminine warriors that represent the spiritual and archetypal medicine are tied to wisdom or transformation. For example, in Hindu mythology, we have Durga, a fierce mother goddess often depicted riding a lion and wielding multiple weapons to slay demons, and she represents the protection of the universe. In Greek mythology, we have the Amazons, an entire nation of female warriors and hunters known for their physical strength and archery, led by the queen known as Hippolyta. In Norse mythology, we have the Valkyries, divine shield maidens who serve Odin, choosing which warriors live and die in battle to lead them to Valhalla. In Greek mythology, we have Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Unlike the chaotic rage of Mars and Aries, Athena represents disciplined and purposeful combat. In folk tales for the feminine, there are stories involving the warrior maiden who disguises herself or breaks traditional roles to fulfill a higher quest. Joan of Arc is a great example, a French peasant girl who followed divine visions to lead the French army to major victories during the 100 Years' War. We also have Atalanta, a fierce huntress who was abandoned at birth and raised by bears, eventually becoming one of the most skilled athletes and warriors in legend. So I'm going to conclude part 1 of this video series, and in the next video, we will explore Aries and Mars. I'd like to close this video with 2 of my favorite warrior quotes, besides Yoda. I don't have Yoda in here. Do or do not. There is no try, right? Confucius said, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." And Hiral Nagda said, "Dig deeper within the confines of your inner warrior. I guarantee you haven't seen the real you, who is ridiculously fearless and outrageously unstoppable." So as we conclude this series, I just want to let you know I'm creating this playlist for the inner warrior so that we can reclaim some of our personal power in the times that we find ourselves in. At the time these videos for this playlist series have been recorded, we find ourselves in tumultuous times globally. We have wars happening all over the world, from Gaza to Ukraine, and also in the United States. And there can be a feeling of overwhelm. And a way to take back our power and to focus first here and bring courage and strength within, fulfilling our bodies, helps to go out into the world to be the courageous warriors standing in integrity, to be examples for others. So may these videos nourish you. The movement videos are also here to release heat, so there's no overwhelm or burnout, right? And I will be making future videos for restoratives if you've been out, let's say, protesting or such, or doing battle in any shape or capacity, and you need to come and regroup before going back out. I will have videos in the future that will help you do that, to restore and renew and regenerate through pranayama, meditation, and restorative movement that brings you back into your body in a calm, safe manner. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Om Shanti, and I will see you in part 2.